I don't think the point guard position in the NBA has ever been more loaded than it is right now. So this may be the toughest tier list ever to do with point guards. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Throughout the month of December, I'm going to be doing a mid-season ranking update in a tier list form of every single position, as well as teams and rookies. I made this tier list myself, so I put all NBA point guards that are currently averaging more than 20 minutes a game. You may see this in a couple of days, so it could possibly change, but that was the criteria for these guys, and more than 50% of their minutes played this year have been at the point guard position. All right, so we have 5 tiers right now, ranging from S tier, which is an MVP candidate this season, A tier, which is an all-NBA caliber point guard, maybe just a high-end all-star, B is all-star, even borderline all-stars I may put in this, C is a solid starter, and D is a backup. All right, so we're going to start off with Chris Paul. Obviously still a very solid floor general, isn't going to turn the ball over, is going to still be a good playmaker, but he's not the all-NBA point guard he used to be or all-star. I think with his really bad efficiency, he's either in C or D tier. I'm still going to say he's a solid starter. I think, like, obviously on the Warriors, he's behind Steph Curry, so he's coming off the bench, but I do think he would start on a decent amount of teams. And I'm not saying he should be your top 4 scoring option. Maybe he should be your last scoring option on the offensive side of the ball in the starting lineup, but I still think he's a solid starter, even this late in his career. Man, shout out to Kobe White. I really enjoy watching Kobe White. One of the very few players I enjoy watching on the Chicago Bulls this year. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's definitely increased his playmaking ability throughout his career. He is now kind of a full-time starter there. I do think he'd be a solid starter on most teams because of his efficiency, his pace of play, and his playmaking ability. And I don't think he's like a liability by any means on the defensive side of the floor. So I think he's a solid starter. I would actually kind of like to compare these guys, Chris Paul or Kobe White, who would excel more on like a really good team this year. All right, we have Cole Anthony. Man, Cole Anthony's probably also a solid starter. Hasn't really started a whole lot in Orlando, but I do think he would start on some other teams. He's one of the better scorers off the bench, and that may be where he would excel with his role. So maybe he's just better off being a 6th man and just kind of running that second unit. But I do think he would start on a decent amount of teams in the league, and he's really done a great job in his role. So I'm adding the F tier, which is kind of just the end of the bench. I feel like I do got to put some people in an F tier. And remember, I'm just ranking these guys against each other as point guards. Obviously, all these guys deserve to be in rotations, or at least most of them. And this is just this season now. I'm not really taking into account 5 years from now or future who I'm building a team with. It's really about only the 2024 season. So next we got Damian Lillard. I don't think Damian Lillard is an MVP candidate. Do I think he will be an all-NBA guy? That is definitely up for question. Like, obviously, he's going to be an all-star. I don't think he's an MVP guy, like I said, but he's averaging 25 points and 7 assists. He started off horribly with his efficiency, but it's gotten better as the season progressed. So I think he's a high-end all-star, low-end all-NBA guy. D'Angelo Russell, he's actually been good this year. I'm not a big D'Angelo Russell fan, but he's definitely proving me wrong. I do think he's also a solid starter in the league. Would be maybe a 6th man on an elite team, but he's been a nice playmaker and just kind of overall point guard and facilitator for this Lakers squad this year. Okay, honestly, like, since there is a high bar for point guards, I think Darius Garland has been kind of a solid starter this year. I think he's been anything close to an all-star caliber point guard. He has shown flashes, but the efficiency has taken a step back this year. I know he's been dealing with injury, but he's also averaging over 2.5 less assists than he did 2 years ago and over assists less than he did last year. So he hasn't really kind of stayed the same that he once was, kind of breaking out fully in the 2022 and 2023 season. So I think this year, in a vacuum, he's a solid starter. I don't think he really should be in the all-star conversation. De'Aaron Fox, this is a tough one because he's definitely either a high-end all-NBA guy. I think that I don't think he's an MVP candidate. I want to leave like just maybe a few names up there. I have like 3 or so in mind. I don't think he's going to be in that MVP convo, but De'Aaron Fox is having such a good year. He's averaging 30 points, just under 5 rebounds, and 6 assists a night. So maybe I'll end up putting him in that MVP conversation later on, but we'll get to that eventually. So Dennis Schroeder, I think he's best served as a backup nowadays. I don't think his efficiency is there to really be, but I do think it's a little disrespectful to him because Chris Paul has not really been better this year than Dennis Schroeder, in my opinion. So I think now evaluating this or reevaluating this, I'm going to drop Chris Paul to more of a backup now. Maybe he wouldn't really start on many teams. I'm like, would you rather have D'Lo or Chris Paul this year? I think that's up for debate. Okay, Dyson Daniels, I don't think he's an end of the bench guy, but I do think he's a backup point guard. Now, his defense is there. His defense is better than a lot of these guys on this list. He may be the best defensive point guard here. I think he is, actually. But his offense, I don't think warrants enough to put him as a solid starter or, yeah, anything higher than backup. So I think he's like a good defensive guard off the bench, but I don't think he would be a starter over some of these other guys currently. Fred VanVleet, man, the efficiency is not there, and it really hasn't been in his career, but he's kind of helped turn this Rockets team around, and he's also been a good facilitator, so I think I would put him in the solid starter category. Yeah, for sure. Like, the overall field goal percentage isn't great, but he's been a good 3-point shooter and free throw shooter, and he's been hitting, or he's been facilitating well also as a point guard. And like I said, kind of turning this Rockets team around from being just like a bottom feeder in the West to actually being a respectable team. So he's going to go there. I think Jaylen Brown is an all-star. I want to put him in the all-NBA, but I don't think he would get it over Lillard and Fox. And maybe if I feel like these are the only two guys in the all-NBA tier, I'll bump him up there. But if not, if we maybe add like two more guys to this tier, I think I'm comfortable with Brunson as like an all-star this year. I do think he'll get in. And I do think he's probably a tier below what Fox and maybe Lillard have done this year. I think he's actually on par with Lillard, but maybe a little bit below Fox. Okay, so Jamal Murray, this is going to be an interesting one. And just looking here in the 2024 season where he's played hurt, he's averaging 17 points a night and 7 assists. While the efficiency, I think, is a little bit better than Garland, it's a relative impact to what Garland has done. So I think it would be hypocritical of me to dock Garland from the All-Star tier, but not Jamal Murray. So I'm going to put Jamal Murray here. Now, guy I wanted a playoff series, I'm taking Jamal Murray probably over anybody on this list, maybe not named Damian Lillard right now. But I think looking here just in 2024, he's been hurt. I think he's been a solid starter. So I'm not going to put him up any higher. I think if he was healthy, he could definitely be up here, but I am not going to be hypocritical. So James Harden, also a tough guy to rank. I don't think Harden has been an all-star guy. Obviously, with just so many mouths to feed in LA with him, Russ, Paul George, Kawhi, he wasn't going to put up all-star numbers, but I do think he's been a solid starter because he's still facilitating. He's still hitting his threes and has been efficient. Now, the defense maybe isn't there and it's taken a little bit of a step back, but I think he's a solid starter, and I'd rather have him over every guy below him, and I think I'd still rather have him over a bunch of guys in this tier, and I'm not ranking them in the tiers. It's just pretty much what I got. Jeremy Sohan, yeah, he has played majority of his minutes this year as a point guard, and he has been arguably the worst point guard in the league this year that has played north of 20 minutes. The experiment is not working out whatsoever. I think it's actually hurting like this overall Spurs team because they are one of the worst teams in the league. And I'm not saying Wemby's development, but I think Wemby could even be a little bit better, and maybe some other guys too. I don't think Sohan is working out as a point guard as much as I'd love to see a power forward transition into a point guard, and I think that's a pretty cool positional change as you're like a point forward. It's just not worked out for Sohan. But I will say he has been a respectable 3-point shooter, so yeah, as long as we're seeing that kind of develop in the right way. You guys can let me know in the comments if I'm too harsh on Sohan. Drew Holiday. The defense is still there. Still an elite defender, but like the offensive numbers are no better than Garland and Murray, so I think I may put him as a solid starter. Now, there's a chance I just move him, I move Garland, and I move Jamal Murray up a tier, but I think like we're getting the great defensive impact from Holiday, but I don't think he's any different than these guys on the offensive side of the floor, so there's a chance I change this. So just this is going to be a big TBD right now. All right, so if we're comparing him to just other point guards here, I think I gotta put Keontae George here, also at the end of the bench. He's shown some flashes for sure, but his efficiency has not been good, but he's a rookie. So like obviously rookie guards especially aren't gonna have good efficiency in their first year in the league. That's not really a common thing. So like in my rookie tier list, I may give him a bump up, but I'm comparing him to guys that have been in the league for 10, 15 years. Obviously he's not gonna stack up with a lot of these guys. He's asked to do way more than we expected, not even being a lottery pick from this past draft. So yeah, I do think I'm gonna be harsh on Killian Hayes, but I gotta be objective here. I still like him long term, but this is just this season. Next up we have Killian Hayes, and I do think he's been good enough where I'm gonna put him in the backup tier. I think he's been a solid playmaker. I think his efficiency has been a little bit better this year, at least with his shot selection. And obviously the Pistons stink, so it's not translating into wins. So honestly, I may just have to dock him for that. Like, this man is averaging 27 minutes a night. I don't even know if he would crack, like, championship caliber teams rotation. So I think I may put him at the end of the bench. I think, like, the reason why I have these guys in backups, because, like, Paul and Schroeder are getting some veteran leadership. Plus, you're getting some good playmaking abilities as well. For Daniels, you're at least getting an elite defender. And at least I think it translates to winning. I don't think we've seen that from any of these guys here at the bottom. Obviously, I'm not going to put that on Sohan and Keontae George because they're rookies on rebuilding teams. So just remember that. Okay, Kyle Lowry, I think is like a good backup point guard. I think like if the Heat had a chance to upgrade, they would. I think like at times he could be a solid starter because he's shooting the ball well. And I don't think his defense has taken too much of a hit. I mean, it's not what it used to be. Just because he's been more efficient, I'm like debating if I want to throw him in the solid starter. Okay, we're definitely going to like reevaluate, I think, like some of these tiers later in this video. LaMelo Ball was playing at an all-star level before he went down with his injury, so I think I'm going to throw him in there. Obviously, he's not going to be an all-star this year because he's going to miss a decent amount of time, but I do think he's just been that good. Okay, Luka Doncic just is an easy MVP candidate. He's right up there with some other guys, maybe even some other guys that we'll get to, but yeah, Luka Doncic has been one of the better players in the NBA. He's been one of the better point guards basically since he entered the league. Malcolm Brogdon, I don't think has been like an all-star caliber player, but I think he's been good enough to be a solid starter. He's obviously asked to do a lot more, and now being one of the leaders on this Trailblazers team after kind of being a role player, sixth man on Boston last year. And I do wonder if Portland's going to move him at the trade deadline, and I would like to see him on a team that thinks they can kind of go far in the playoffs, but we'll see about that. Okay, this year, it's such a small sample size for Markelle Fultz. It's only been 5 games. He hasn't really shot the ball too much. So honestly, I'm going to say Cole Anthony has been better than him this year. I'm going to throw Fultz in this backup tier. And I think like this is where all the bulk of these guys will probably be in solid starter and backup. I can't have 30 guys C tier and up because that just wouldn't make any sense. But we will definitely change some things around. I think Mike Conley has been like a solid starter this year. I think so. I think we may have to like break up these tiers, but we'll get to that later. Peyton Pritchard has not been great. And I don't even think he's been like a serviceable backup. I think I'm going to throw him at the end of the bench tier. He's just been inefficient. Obviously, he's not going to get a ton of playing time because of Derek White and Drew Holiday there. But yeah, he has been pretty disappointing, especially after getting that new contract as well. So I'm going to throw Reggie Jackson into the solid starter here. And I'm going to change up some of these names. So I'm just going to go backup, starter, and then solid starter. So I think I can kind of break these up a little bit. I think like you're kind of fine with these guys as your starting point guard. Obviously, maybe you'd want a little bit better of a player, but I think you're cool with it. So I think I'm going to throw Conley and Reggie Jackson there. You do not want any of these 4 really being your starting point guard on a good team, and I think I'm cool with how these tiers look now. Russell Westbrook, I think I'm still going to throw in the starter tier because he's at least going to be somewhat of a leader, still a solid playmaker, and at times he won't shoot you out of games, but sometimes he will. He was playing so well to start the season for the Clippers too. It sucks. Like ever since they got James Harden, he hasn't been great. I think you're fine with Russell Westbrook as your starter, and I don't think like he needs to be 100% a backup now, but I think there's a lot better options out there than Russ. It's just he's that far into his career. Okay, Scoot Henderson has been a backup this year. He's actually probably been one of the worser players just in the league this year, sadly. He's been hurt. He spent time in the G League. He started half his games. He's come off the bench the other half. He has not been efficient whatsoever. It's actually been very disappointing for the number 3 overall pick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, though, on the complete other end of the spectrum, he is pretty much an MVP candidate this year. He's led the Thunder to being one of the better teams in the Western Conference. He's putting up insane stats, good efficiency. Yep, he's an MVP candidate. I think right now he's been like arguably a top 2 point guard. You could say top 3, top 4. We have maybe 2 more guys that we're going to put up there. Spencer Dinwiddie, I'm not really a huge fan of. He hasn't really been efficient in a while. I think like his 3-point percentage is okay, but he just takes a lot of bad shots, and I think he takes way more shots than he probably should. He's probably just like an okay starter, but I think maybe kind of trending towards the backup guys. But at least he's keeping the Nets afloat, and they're at least respectable, and he's been on the floor for them. So Steph Curry, he's an MVP candidate for sure. Even though the Warriors aren't going to have that record, he's playing like it. His efficiency is off the charts. He's having one of the better years of his career, and he's already a Hall of Famer. I think I'm comfortable putting up there in the MVP tier. Taylor Horton Tucker has also not been good this year, so he's going to fall into the backup. It's kind of like a trend here, at least like with most of these guys besides Peyton Pritchard, have all been or are on bad teams like the Jazz, the Blazers, the Spurs, and the Pistons. Pritchard just hasn't been good, and he's playing a ton of minutes for the Celtics this year. Trae Young is such a tough guy to rank, and I'm going to put him in borderline all-star. Now, this may get a bump up for Holiday, Garland, and Jamal Murray, but Trae Young is putting up 27 and 10. It's hard to kind of dock him for that. The efficiency has been all over the place this year. He's currently at 41% from the field and 35% from 3 at the moment I'm recording this, but he had an abysmal start to the season. There's some games where he completely shoots the Hawks out of game, and obviously his defense hasn't been great. And I've always been more of a Trae Young supporter than a hater, but I'm going to at least throw him at the end of the all-star there. We may shuffle these guys at the end, so kind of be on the lookout for that. Trey Jones is a tough guy to rank because I don't think he would start on most teams in the league. I think the Spurs are one of the very few teams that he would start on. He'd probably start on Utah too, and I think that's it. But I think he's more of a backup point guard in this league, which is fine. He's still young and developing, and I think he's better at that point guard position than Sohan is. I'm not comparing him to every single point guard in the league. These are just guys getting north of 20 minutes a night, and I think compared to everybody else, he's probably a backup there. Tyrese Haliburton, I think he was always in this All-NBA tier, but I think he is now shot up into the MVP tier. You guys are probably seeing this video either on the day of the finale of the in-season tournament or the day after, where he's going up against the Lakers, but he's beating the Celtics, he's beating the Bucks, he's the best player on this Pacers squad that's having an historic offensive run. I think he's an MVP guy. I think these 4 are pretty much the MVPs this year, and I think like Fox and Lillard are pretty much good All-NBA guys. I think if you want to put Fox up there, but I don't really think I've heard Fox in the MVP combo at all. Maxey, oh man, this is tough. I think Maxey's right there with Brunson as like an high-end all-star, maybe a borderline all-NBA guy. And then we do have Tyus Jones, who I think is a solid starter right now. So I think there's a question when I come down to this tier list. It's like, do I value Jrue Holiday's defense over Trey Young's offense? And I think this is what I'm deciding on. So I've added borderline all-star, which is kind of like the gray area where I think like Holiday impacts this game way more than the box scores and the box sheets show. So I think all-star is kind of unfair. And I think Trey Young is putting up really good numbers, but is it translated to winning this year? Not really. LaMelo is playing really well, got off to a tough start, and obviously he's hurt, so it's going to be kind of more of an incomplete. But I don't think Garland is really deserving of being like considered an all-star this year. Neither do I think Murray or pretty much anybody else over here, but these have all been really good point guards, and I think they've done a lot with some of their circumstances as well, like Kobe White, like Malcolm Brogdon, like Tyus Jones, and I really appreciate the value that like Cole Anthony has provided the Magic this year. D'Lo has provided the Lakers, and I think Harden, this is an extreme fall off, but I don't think this year that he has kind of been as impactful as some of these other guys. Yeah, for some reason I just forgot to put Cade Cunningham in here. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because I put Killian Hayes, but yeah, for Cade Cunningham, I'd put him in the solid starter tier. I do think he's asked to do way too much, and he'd be a for sure starter on so many teams. And I do think like these guys have been kind of the worst point guards that have played north of 20 minutes this year. I do think if you're going to put maybe one above, I think it would probably be Trey Jones, but you guys can debate it in the comments. And then if there's anybody from the solid start, or at least kind of the starters here that should go into solid starters, maybe Kyle Lowry, maybe Schroeder, and then maybe even like Reggie Jackson, I think. And maybe if you want to consider Russ in there as well. And I am providing a lot of value to Dyson Daniels' defense too. So that's on me. That's what I'm standing on. You guys can let me know in the comments. You think maybe Garland, Van Vliet, Jamal Murray should be higher, or James Harden? Do you think Trey or Holiday should be lower or higher? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys did enjoy this tier list. I will also leave a link to it in the description if you want to do your tier list. Let me know on Twitter, and I'll see what I agree with or disagree with. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.